Question 43. Sketch the graph of at least one period of the function y equals 5 sine of pi times x plus 1. So this is a graph of a sinusoidal function, and the first thing we'll look at are the different constants and what they mean. So the first constant is a, and it means amplitude. So we have an amplitude of 5. So that means the distance from the center to the top is 5 units. The center of the graph to the top is 5 units. And so that is a vertical distance when it comes to amplitude. The next is b. b is pi. Now we use b to calculate the period. The period is 2 pi divided by b. So in this particular case, it's 2 pi divided by pi. So the pi's cancel, and we're left with a period of 2. So that is the length of one full cycle. It's the horizontal distance. Horizontal distance of one complete cycle. We'll talk about what that means in a sec. The plus 1 is a shift of 1 to the left. And because it's a sine equation, it's the center that shifts 1 to the left. And lastly, we don't see the value of d, but it's 0 because we're adding nothing. So this graph is centered on 0. So when we label our horizontal axes, we want to label in such a way that we take the period into account. So because the period is 2, that tells me to label my horizontal axis using numbers. So I'm going to, just because I want to show one full cycle, I'll go 1, 2. And of course I'll go -1, -2. Again, during a test, use a ruler. Because the amplitude is 5, and I'm centered on the center because of the plus 0 and the amplitude of 5, so I know my graph will start, or will drop as low as -5, and it will go as high as 5. Okay, so you always use the center combined with the amplitude to get the range, right? The graph drops 5 units down from the center, and it goes 5 units up. All right, so now let's start and put the first point on this graph. And before we put the first point on this graph, I want to show a nice function, the parent function of sine. And we may recall that the period of sine is 2 pi. And what's important about sine is increasing through the center. So if we're going to draw our sine curve, it starts at the origin and goes up to a maximum height. Of course, the maximum is 1. Then it goes down to a root. Then it goes down to the -1. And then it returns back to the center. So if we were to graph sine, try my best here. If we were to graph sine, that's approximately what it would look like. Your period, though, is 2 pi. So because sine is increasing through the center, right? Boom. We want our graph to be increasing through the center. But we have to take into account the shift of 1 to the left. So we're moving 1 to the left. Now we're increasing 1 through the center. So the first point I'm going to put on is -1. Now I'm going to take my period into play. And if I'm taking my period into play, I know in 2 units time, I've completed one full cycle. So 1, 2. By the time I reach 1, I should have one full cycle. So don't do this. Don't go up and down, because that's not one full cycle. That's only half a cycle. You want to go up and down and back where you started from. So you may notice on this graph, in between a full period is another root. So I am going to put another root right here. All right. And now, of course, this would be at minus a half, but it's increasing through the center. So we'd reach our maximum at minus a half, and we'd reach our minimum at positive a half. Now, if you want to continue on and do this, by all means, you can. So I'm going to put another point right here at approximately 1.5. And I'm going to put a final point right here at positive 2. This is optional because it says at least one period. So let's just see what this looks like when I graph it. And maybe I'm going to put a minimum in here. Trying to be the best graph I've ever done. So we make our sinusoidal shape, and I'm going to bring it back around, bring it down. So it may not be the best graph I've ever done, but it's a good attempt using this silly pen. So let's review. I'm on the center, yep. And I shift it one to the right, and I'm sine. Sine is increasing through the center. So my start is wonderful. My period is 2. By the time I complete one full cycle, I've done two units, and my amplitude is 5. The highest this graph goes is 5. The lowest it goes is 5. So I think that's it, and it's a good attempt at a graph of a sinusoidal function.